Everybody. So my name's James Bezic. I'm a developer advocate in the AWS serverless team. And today is a bit of an experiment with so many of us working from home. I figured it'd be good to keep the conversation going about serverless and have an informal lunchtime chat, get a couple of coffee. I've got my cup of coffee going, and try to answer any questions you have about serverless or AWS in general. I thought today's topic could be about EventBridge. So if you post any of your questions in the video chat or on Twitter, I'll see them and I'll answer anything I can. Anything I don't know, I'll table or figure out how to answer next week. But EventBridge is something I'm really personally very passionate about as an AWS service. I think it will fundamentally change how we build serverless applications. And so while event buses aren't new, EventBridge is designed to solve a couple of traditional problems we've had with them in the past. So if you've used event buses in the past, a couple of the issues are that firstly, it's a single point of failure if you have an on-premise solution, which obviously isn't great. And the second problem is you have developers building events all over the place and no way to easily figure out the schemas of those events. So it can become very difficult for administration. So EventBridge solves both those problems. You've got this very highly scalable service that's serverless, which solves the single point of failure. And the second part is you have schema registry. So that really helps solve the problem with administering schemas. It can listen to all of the events going through your bus and automate the discovery. So it's a really important part of how it works and how it fixes the problem with event buses. So I'm just looking to see if I see any comments here. This is the first time I've used this mechanism on Twitter. So if you have any questions, reply to this tweet and I'll see it in the other window. I think that's probably the easiest way to do that. So when I started using EventBridge, it was about 6 months ago, there are a few interesting things that I discovered. So firstly, it's an evolution of CloudWatch events. That's the most important thing. It's not a brand new service. So already when it launched, it was handling trillions of events every month. And when you pull it into your application, it's incredibly easy to use. So really, it's just a couple of lines of code is all you have to put in there. And one of the weird things is that it's unlike creating messages. When you create events, you're not targeting anybody. So as a producer in EventBridge, you simply create an event. And an event is something that's a piece of information about what has changed. An order has come in, a machine has come online, a customer has done something. And you're not actually speaking to a target service at all. It's just something that you as a producer are saying, this happened. And so when you first start developing this and building an event, it can be kind of weird. Hold on, who am I addressing this to? And you're not actually addressing it to anybody. You're simply sending it to the bus and letting the bus handle the rest. So this creates very, very decoupled applications. And so on the other side of that, as a consumer, when you want to build an application that's based upon an event going through the bus, it's the opposite side, where what you can do is look at what's going through the bus and write a rule to consume those events for your application. And so the really neat thing, and the reason why I think this is such a game changer, is if any of you work in enterprises or in places where you have legacy systems, it's very easy with traditional applications to find that you start decoupled and get more and more monolithic because of the way these systems are so tightly integrated. And by putting an event bus in the middle, you keep these forever decoupled. The producers and the consumers literally know absolutely nothing about each other. And so it's a really easy way to make sure that you keep at the velocity of the changes in your applications. So one of the examples I gave fairly recently that I like to talk about with EventBridge is with an ATM. So if you think about a banking service where you have ATMs in a network, you can imagine that different people inside the bank. Oh, I have an invite from Rob to join. We're going to see if we can let Rob in here. I don't know if that worked or not. Okay, we'll try that again. We've got Rob Sutter, who's another DA, who's trying to join in the call. So we'll see if that works. So with the banking example, you could have a banking institution that has a series of ATMs, and the ATMs produce events for EventBridge. And you can imagine different departments inside of the bank then wanting to consume those events for different purposes. So you might have a compliance department where they want to know every single thing that's going on inside the ATM. So they could create a rule that would consume every single event and log it out to CloudWatch for consumption later. Or you might have a marketing department that wants to know when customers are making withdrawals that are more than $100. Maybe they have a promotion for those customers. So they could set a rule targeting just those ATM transactions for that amount. Similarly, you could have other rules for fraud, for example. If you had lots of denied cards happening, the fraud department could listen to events going through the ATM that only pick up transactions that have been declined. And the neat thing about this is on the ATM side, they could then add new events. Let's say that when the ATM's out of money, they might have a separate type of event to indicate that the ATM needs service. So they could add that event. That doesn't impact any of the existing consumers who are listening to other events. And now a paging team could listen to those outage events for when the ATM is out of money and then go and send the team to go and put more money in the machine. So it's a really interesting model, because if you think about doing that without this event-based system, a lot of traditional businesses tend to go back to the database model, where they want to look at the transactions from last night and run database queries against production systems. And this tends to put a lot of extra work on one or two teams to maintain that. In this model, anybody within the group who has permission can essentially build extra functionality on the application without impacting any other team. So what I'll do is I'll have a quick look to see if there are any questions. We didn't manage to get Rob on, unfortunately, but we'll try again next time. So with EventBridge, another thing it's really interesting is it's very inexpensive to use. There's a good free tier allowance, and it's $1 per million events coming into the bus. You don't get charged for events from AWS services, and so that opens up some interesting functionality options. Just one moment. I think we got this work. Hi, is that Rob?
Hey, James, can you hear me?
Yeah. How you doing?
Super, great, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Excellent, yeah. So we're learning this whole Twitter live stream thing, so we'll have this. I was just talking about how with EventBridge, you can use events from other AWS services. And I think this is something that is pretty new for people and opens up a lot of different possibilities.
Right. So one of the things I like the most about it is that a lot of people don't realize you already have EventBridge in your account. There's already a bus running there, and it's consuming a lot of your sort of operational statistics and events from your AWS account. So by going into that default event bus and looking at the events that we're already putting on there for you, it's a great way to learn about the power of EventBridge and what it can do for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of the interesting ones I found was that you can attach a Lambda function to multiple S3 buckets using EventBridge by using rules. So if you have one function, for example, that you want to run across 4 or 5 different buckets with different naming conventions, it's actually very easy with EventBridge because you can use event filtering to make it happen. So there's some interesting combinations that you can pull off that are different to how you might natively connect events using S3 plus Lambda.
Right.
But another really interesting part of it is the integration with SaaS providers. So we've got 24 different SaaS partners available on EventBridge today. Apparently it's becoming 25 soon, and there's more and more coming online. But there are people like Datadog and Auth0 and PagerDuty. And one of the things I love about this is that essentially it means that for businesses that are using SaaS providers, and often these providers are a critical part of their IT infrastructure, instead of having webhooks or polling or this kind of thing, they can consume these events without actually taking them over the internet. So the provider publishes the event, you receive them, and the whole thing happens within the AWS backbone. So that's inherently a more secure option.
Yeah, that's right. And it's these SaaS providers, the 24 that you mentioned, it's everything from business events like CRM solutions to your applications themselves. If you're doing serverless monitoring with Thundra, for example, you can pick up events there. Zendesk, so when you get a ticket, you can see what sort of challenges your customers are facing and how you can help them be more successful in real time. So it really enables you to run your business the way that you need to across all different functional areas.
Yeah, and actually one thing just to drop in there is that if you are running a SaaS company and you've got some software and you want to integrate with EventBridge, DM me or drop me an email at jbezic@amazon.com, because it's not particularly difficult at all. So if you have that sort of product where you want to access a large number of customers, it's a great service to integrate with. And one of the questions I frequently get asked, and I'm seeing one over here, is what is the difference between EventBridge and SNS? So on the surface of it, these services look very similar. You know, they both operate with pub-sub mechanisms, and broadly they can seem like a replacement for each other. But actually, there's a big difference between the two. So SNS has been around for quite a long time, but it's designed really for massive fan-out for large numbers of consumers. You know, EventBridge only allows you 5 targets per rule. With SNS, you can go to hundreds of thousands if you need to. And it also has different types of targets. So with SNS, you can use HTTP, SMS, push notifications, that kind of thing. I really think EventBridge is part of more of an architectural shift. So I wouldn't recommend to people to just automatically replace your SNS integrations with EventBridge necessarily, unless you need the functionality. To me, EventBridge is really when you're wanting to break apart your applications and take advantage of event-driven architecture.
Yeah, and you kind of hint at this here, but these are meant to work together as well. As you say, Amazon EventBridge is sort of the backbone, but there's going to be use cases where you need that just massive fan out in such a short time. And SNS itself can be a subscriber to, or can capture events from EventBridge and then still perform that functionality if you need it. So it's really just an addition of capabilities, not a swapping or an exchange.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the same with SQS. You can use EventBridge with SQS to do some things too. So one of the things I was talking about with Nick, the product manager, was how you could create a really robust webhook. If you've got a webhook in your account, you can very easily put EventBridge behind the API gateway portion and have that to make sure you can retry any events or reroute events if you have any downstream failures. So there's some interesting combinations of things you can do with existing services.
Yep, that's right.
So
better together.
Yeah, and there's a lot coming down the road with I honestly think that when you look at the way serverless applications are being developed now, where instead of it being so Lambda focused, really a serverless application now is a federation of different services with Lambda performing as glue. We have this amazing event-driven architecture that's evolving, and I see EventBridge as being a very central part of this.
Yeah, I mean, you and I both have used the term backbone to describe it. So as you begin to design greenfield applications that are serverless on AWS, EventBridge should sort of be the first place you look for how to pass events and messages back and forth.
Right.
And as you got to, it's easy to think only of AWS Lambda as the target for these events, but that's not the case. There's a number of integrations, service integrations as we call them, directly between services that can consume events off your bus. And this helps you out because you don't have to put custom code in and maintain that custom code. Instead, you can just route these events directly to the services that need to consume them. That's a really powerful tool for building modern applications.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm keeping this thing to 15 minutes so we can basically keep this as a short lunchtime Friday experiment between us all. But one thing I wanted to add here is that one of the great things about being a developer advocate is I am an advocate for you, the developers. So we're a direct line into product team. And everything that is developed by AWS comes from product request. So if you use these tools and you think of features and ideas to make them better, definitely send them to me or Rob or Chris or anyone in the DA team, because we can make sure those get seen by the product team and get built into the product roadmap for the future. So don't think that you're not part of this whole thing. You're critical to how we build these applications. One of the things I'll be doing is, after this call, I'll paste a link with some resources so you can see different ways to read about Event Desk and look at our videos and try some of our apps. My colleague Ben has a SAR app for how you integrate it with Zendesk. It's pretty interesting to play with. But take a look at some of these resources. If you have any questions, just ask anytime. We'll come back to you with answers. And if you have any ideas for topics for these, if we do this every 15 minutes while everybody's working from home, just ping me and we'll make sure we talk about those topics in subsequent weeks. But in the meantime, I hope everyone's enjoying the big work from home experiment. It's a rainy day here in New Hampshire, but at least it's not snowing. And I hope everybody has a great lunch and take care, and we'll see you next week.
Yep. Thanks for having me, James. Thanks for joining, everybody.